been convened here, so many of you, that put some burden on my shoulder not to disappoint anyone here, because I don't want to ruin the reputation of the institution after. And I have to tell you that Bulgaria and the cooperation between Hungary and Bulgaria is very close to my heart, since we have counted with my colleague Daniel today that we both have been foreign ministers for a year and 4 months, roughly, and that was our 6th bilateral meeting. He's the minister I met the most in the last 1 year and 4 months, and I'm the minister he met the most in the last 1 year and 4 months. So that shows the importance of the and the significance that we attach to the Hungarian-Bulgarian bilateral cooperation. And you know, this is something about which we don't speak too often, because countries within European Union, or the leaders of the countries within European Union, got used to meet on a regular basis, because there are council meetings for ministers of different formats. There are council meetings for the prime ministers. We ministers of foreign affairs meet once every month at least. So we take it for kind of obvious, you know, that we meet and we talk to each other. But sometimes we really do have to take the time to sit down, only 2 of us, not on the margin of a multilateral event, and talk to each other about the most important points. And this is not by accident, and this is not only the age why we met so often with Daniel, because it was always daytime on official events and not anywhere else, that we attach a great importance to this bilateral cooperation. That's why it really makes me very happy and privileged to be invited here. And I'm very honored that that the ambassadors of so many countries attended, and I'm very honored that members of parliament and other dignitaries have joined today. This honor makes me to be very honest when I share my thoughts with you, because I think one of the most serious challenge what we face as Europe currently is hypocrisy and political correctness. And political correctness is actually incorrectness currently in Europe. We are hypocritic and try to be politically correct. That's the worst combination. Because currently in Europe, if you speak about things as they are, and if you say what you think about things, you're gonna be attacked immediately. First, you're gonna be declared extremist, then radical, and you're gonna be allocated by so many things that I just don't wanna recall here. But I think that the first step, which we have to take now, as facing the most serious challenges of European Union ever since the foundation of this integration, is to be honest and name things as they are. And my starting point of this series of thoughts is that Europe and European Union herself has never had to face so many and so serious challenges at one time since the conclusion of the Second World War than currently. And I think that there are 5 major groups of challenges we've been facing. First one is economic and trade challenges. The second is a war in the neighborhood, I mean in ours for sure, Ukraine. Energy security, threat of terror, and the most serious challenge ever, migration. If you allow me, I would like to make some points about these 5 issues in the upcoming 15 to 20 minutes. And I try to put forward the way we Hungarians think about these challenges. First of all, economic and trade challenges. I just met your Minister of Economy, who is a very smart and wise guy, and he briefed me about the, I'm sorry, I should be much more, I mean, he's a very nice person. And he shared with me the recent developments of Bulgarian economy, and we agreed on most of the issues. But I would like to tell you 3 figures. When it comes to European Union, we have 7 or 8% of world's population. we create 15 to 16% of world's GDP. And in the meantime, we distribute 50% of the world's social welfare spending. So while having 7 to 8% of the world's population, creating 15 to 16% of global GDP, we spend 50% of the world's social welfare spending. We don't need to be an economist to understand that this is unsustainable on the long and on the medium run and on the short run as well. We got indebted. Most of the European Union member states got indebted very badly, and that makes us defenseless in this respect. And when I say us, I mean European Union and European countries. What we see here is that there's a global race between the regional trade and economic integrations. And if you lag behind in this kind of global race, you can lose a lot. And the thing is, the truth is that Europe has been lagging behind in this respect. We have been lagging behind in the global race between regional economic and trade integrations. Why? Because we are slow and we are bureaucratic and hypocritic in the meantime. Because we have started negotiations with the United States of America about the transatlantic trade and investment partnership. We have been negotiating with the US for a very long time. And where are we now? Nowhere. And on lane 8, as it's usually said on the swimming races, on lane 8, Trans-Pacific Partnership has been signed a couple of months ago. United States and 10 plus partners from Asia and Pacific signed an agreement, a free trade agreement, which covers 40% of global GDP, covers 30% of global trade. And in the meantime, Russia has been putting so many efforts in building Eurasian Economic Union. We see the Arab countries putting enormous effort in order to have some regional influence when it comes to economy, Africa and the surrounding regions. Not to speak about the endeavors of US, Russia and the Arab countries in Latin America. And we Europeans are too much deep into our own troubles, these three figures, and we are not able to think strategically, and we are not able to build together sub-regional kind of cooperations. Although European Union should encourage her member states to build such kind of cooperations. And here, Bulgaria and Hungary, we have a common endeavor. And this is a building strategic cooperation with China in a 16+1 format. 16 countries in Central and Eastern Europe and in the Western Balkans, including non-EU members like Serbia, Montenegro, and the others, building strategic cooperation with China. But instead of being encouraged, we are usually warned by European Union not to be so enthusiastic in this respect. Although the volume of bilateral trade between these 16 countries with China is lower than the bilateral trade only between Italy and China, for example. So I would say that point number one, Europe should be much more enthusiastic and should concentrate much more on regional trade and economic partnerships, should look beyond the borders of European Union and should build strategic partnerships and be much quicker, because if we are not quicker in the future in these respects, we're gonna be lagging behind finally. My second point is that you know, a couple of years ago, no one would have believed in our region that there would be a war in the neighborhood. And this is the situation currently. There is a war in Ukraine. And this war causes and creates disasters. Human, national, continental, and international, and economic disasters and losses. Of course, we as a neighboring country of Ukraine, we are absolutely committed to support the territorial integrity and sovereignty of Ukraine. We are absolutely committed to encourage and call upon all sides to fully implement all chapters and all measures of the Minsk agreements. But I just would like to emphasize here that, of course, we will always be part of common European decisions, and we will always stick ourselves to common decisions, for example, when it comes to sanctions. But I just would like to put a question mark here and ask whether we are sure that these sanctions have helped to go towards a solution. I just know one thing: Hungary and Hungarian companies lost $4.5 billion of export in the last 2 years. Ukraine has lost around 20% of industrial capacities. All other European economies have lost a lot. And $4.5 billion in case of Hungary may seem to be a macroeconomic figure. But at the end of the day, this is a loss of companies. This is loss of companies who employ people, who try to develop, and loss of companies who then have to waive people and miss opportunities to be developed because of this situation. And we are not the country suffering the most in economic terms in this respect. So what I would like to emphasize here is that we are absolutely committed to territorial integrity and sovereignty of Ukraine. We are absolutely committed to that the full implementation of Minsk agreement is the red line. But I just want to say that if Europe wants to be competitive in the future, has to be able to rebuild a pragmatic and rational dialogue with Russia based on mutual trust and based on trust towards international law. Because if we are not able to work together with Russia in the future, we will have, let's say it politically correct, a limited hope to get back at least part of our lost competitiveness. If there is no cooperation, pragmatic cooperation in the future between Russia and Europe, we will lose a lot. I subscribe to what the German Chancellor has said, I think quite a couple of years ago, when she was speaking about the necessity of an economic zone from Lisbon to Vladivostok. I think this is a true interest of Europe. And when it comes to the Ukrainian crisis, I think we have to think in a complex way. And I have to tell you that we as Hungarians are absolutely interested in a politically and economically strong Ukraine, because if you have strong neighbors, that makes you strong as well. And when I speak about Ukraine, I just would like to highlight the failure and success of the Eastern Partnership policy of European Union. And I just would like to highlight that not only our southern neighborhood is very, let's say, fragile currently, rather than the Eastern as well. European Union has 6 partners within the partnership of within the program called Eastern Partnership. Out of 6 countries, there is only 1 having no territorial conflicts currently. And this is Belarus. And I just want to come to the issue that whenever we raised the question, is it right that the European Union, let's say, avoids herself to build a rational cooperation with Belarus? Then we were always said, we have to maintain sanctions against Belarus, we shouldn't work together because there are political prisoners, and so on and so forth. I'm not speaking about the quality of the democracy in Belarus, because this is the job of the Belarusian people to make decisions and judge that. But I just would like to ask that if United States of America runs a kind of policy to Cuba, as they do, are we pragmatic enough when we are not opening towards Belarus? Now, thanks God, things are getting better, things are changing. We have lifted the sanctions, I think much later than we should have, but later is better than never. But we have to put into consideration that our eastern neighborhood is very fragile as well. 6 out of 6 countries, 1 country without territorial debates, because there we have Ukraine, we have spoken about it. There is Moldova, now on the news, with Transnistria. There we have Georgia, which, by the way, I think deserves to be invited to NATO, because they have contributed so much to international actions that they should be invited to NATO and they should be given the visa-free regime to European Union. But Georgia has been struggling with territorial issues with Russia, and there we have Azerbaijan and Armenia having troubles with each other. So we have to pay attention to this eastern neighbor. So that was my second point. My third point is energy security. You know, we people in Central Europe, we really feel that energy security is one of the hottest potatoes. And if we want to be honest, there was no forward progress in the recent years when it came to the issue of whether our energy security has progressed or not. I think the answer is clearly not. It has not progressed at all. Because we had a project called South Stream. We would have had a project called South Stream, which was, let's say, cancelled. This is politically correct. If I want to be blunt, it was killed. Because there were so many critics, so many criticism against South Stream, saying that it's bypassing Ukraine, it's against values and interests of Europe, economically it's not feasible. Okay, it was killed. I admit that would not have been a diversification of sources because that would have delivered Russian gas, but it would have been diversification of routes. But it was said it's not enough. And we were reached out by some friends of ours not to take part on the St. Petersburg Economic Forum last year, which we delivered. And I look at the news and I see that German, French, Dutch, British company, Austrian company, OMV, E.ON, Shell, signing agreement with Gazprom about doubling the capacity of the Nord Stream. What is the difference? One word, north and south. And the other difference, list of the companies participating in the project. So this is what I call hypocrisy, and this is what I call double standards. That if Europe would like to be strong in the future, we should not apply double standards. There should be level playing fields, because energy security in our region, in the Western Balkans and in Central Europe, is not a responsibility only of Western Balkans and Central Europe. This is a responsibility of Europe. Because currently, 85% of our gas needs are being supplied by Russia. And we are bashed when we talk to them, by the way. 85%. Serbia gets 100% of its gas demand from Hungary. Bosnia gets 100% of its gas demand through Serbia and Hungary. So when we speak about energy security in the region, we speak about a European responsibility. And until yesterday, we have not received any kind of answer from European institutions that if not South Stream 2, if not South Stream, if not Turkish Stream, then what is going to be the project that will ensure that we will have energy security in the region? And now finally, yesterday, we had some kind of decision from European Commission, which we welcome. We hope it's going to come into reality, that Bulgaria, Romania, Hungary, and Austria can work together on a vertical corridor, connecting the southern gas corridor with Central Europe. We hope we're going to be successful there. I just would like to put here very openly that there are no level playing fields in this respect, and there are double standards applied by European institutions in this respect, which we totally find as unacceptable. If you allow me just one sentence about nuclear energy, Hungary is very interested in nuclear, and we have decided to build new reactors in cooperation with Russia, with Rosatom, which gonna build the new reactors to our nuclear power plant. Not surprisingly, European Commission tries to, let's say, challenge this kind of investment of ours recently. Hopefully, we're gonna overcome this challenge as well. My fourth point is a threat of terror. A couple of years ago, or even a couple of months ago, no, a couple of years ago, when we were watching television, all of us, and having seen the scenes from the Middle East, we were kind of relaxed in our chairs in front of television, saying that, okay, there are so many thousands of kilometers away, it's not going to happen here for sure. And now currently, what is the reality? It happens in Europe as well. And threat of terror became part of everyday life in Europe. And we have to speak about that openly, very openly, because this is about the everyday life of the European people. And here I connect to point number 5, migration. Because no one says, not even me, no one says that migration equals terrorism. No one says that all migrants are possibly terrorists. No one says that. But I think it is obvious that if there's an unregulated and uncontrolled influx of 3,000 to 5,000 people on a daily basis to Europe, that increases the danger of terror. I think it's very obvious. And here hypocrisy and the politically correct way of expression comes on the table. Because when I say that, I can be pretty sure that I will be attacked within a couple of minutes on the internet or in the media. But I'm not saying that migration equals terrorism. I say that if you have an unregulated and unchecked influx of thousands of people on a daily basis to your territory, about the majority of whom you don't know who they are, you don't know where they're coming from, you don't know the reason why they come from, that increases the threat of terror, and that increases possibility of violence, and that puts the terror threat on Europe and on European Union. Here I want to make a point that this is a migration crisis. And words count, because this is not a refugee crisis. Because if you look at the media, if you listen to the dialogue, political dialogue in Europe, what you hear? 90% refugee crisis. But come on, this is not a refugee crisis. This is a migration crisis, a mass migration. Because most of the people, vast majority of the people who have been arriving through the Western Balkans to Hungary, for example, they were economic migrants. They were economic migrants. Male, mostly between 18 to 40. Because if these people, if we make the track of these people, if we follow the track of these people, how they proceed to Germany, what we see? First they enter Greece, then they enter Macedonia, then they enter Serbia, then they used to enter Hungary, not anymore. Then they enter Croatia, from there they used to enter Hungary, not anymore. Slovenia, Austria, and Germany. But tell me, whose life is in danger in Serbia, for example? Whose life is in danger in Macedonia? Whose life is in danger in Austria? Does someone believe seriously that someone has to leave Austria for Germany because he or she is a refugee and his or her life is in danger in Austria? Of course, no. So when these people move along these routes, they, by definition, cannot be refugees. They are migrants. And why I'm underlining that? Because treating refugees and making the decision whether what kind of treatment you apply towards an economic migrant is totally different. There are totally different international obligations, how to treat a refugee and how to treat an economic migrant. And I would like to say that this kind of migration crisis will not end tomorrow. Even more, the pressure will be increased. You can be sure about that. If you have a look at the southern neighborhood of European Union, in Syria, there are 13 million people who require humanitarian assistance. Out of them, 6.5 million are internally displaced persons. In Iraq, there are at least 3 million IDPs. Out of them, 1.5 million staying in the northern part in Kurdistan. In the sub-Saharan Africa, according to statistics, there are at least 13 to 15 million IDPs. And I haven't talked about Yemen, Libya, I haven't talked about Afghanistan, Pakistan, so and other Middle East countries. So and there are millions living as refugees in Lebanon and Jordan, and Turkey has been taking care of millions of people in the recent years. So it's very easy to put together that there are around 30 to 35 million people living in the southern and southeastern neighborhood of ours in a life situation which can make them very easily and very quickly to make a decision to hit the road. And if they make a decision to hit the road, they make a decision to hit the road towards Europe. And we have to be prepared for that. We have to be prepared for that. And currently, we are defenseless. We are absolutely defenseless, because if we were not defenseless, then we would be in a position to control who is coming, and we could make the decision whether we let someone in or not. Because I think part of sovereignty of a state is that you, the state, can decide whom you let in and whom you do not let in. This is part of sovereignty. And currently, Europe is defenseless in this respect. And here I would like to make the point that if we are not able to stop this influx, then we will remain defenseless. That's why I think we need a complex solution. A complex one which consists of 3 factors, at least. One, that we have to physically stop the influx. Bulgaria made it. Congratulations, by the way. Hungary has made it. I would say congratulations, but I'm Hungarian, so it would sound a little bit strange. But we made it. In Hungary, we had the influx of 5,000 to 12,000 people on a daily basis. 5,000 to 12,000 people on a daily basis. And we have an external Schengen border. And the Schengen Code says that if you are located, just another example for European hypocrisy. Schengen Code says that if you are located at the external border of the Schengen zone, you must make it sure that your border is going to be crossed only through border crossing points, only during opening hours. That's what the Schengen Code says. And when we ask the European institutions, could you please tell us whether we have to comply with these regulations under such kind of circumstances? The answer is yes, obviously you do have to. And when we stop the influx, we are criticized, being inhuman. And when I meet my fellow foreign ministers and they put this item on the table, I usually ask, do we have to comply with the regulations? Yeah, yes, you do have to. And I ask, can you tell me how you can defend, protect a border which is longer than 500 kilometers, totally plain, in case of 5,000 to 10,000 irregular migrants on a daily basis, if not with a physical obstacle, a fence, then there's no answer. But the criticism there, you have to protect your border, but you must not build a fence. But then how you can make it? And I want to say that it is not a fundamental, basic human right to choose which country you want to live in. And just because there are many of you, it's not the reason why you are going to be allowed to cross the border of a country. Because if you would like to cross the border of the country, we have to have a passport, we have to stand the line. We never shout and throw stones if we have to stand the line and wait minutes and hours to present our passport, right? And then cross the border. This is the normal way of life. It's not normal that there are thousands who would like to come from point A to point B and they think it's just free to go through borders. This is not the normal, should not be the normal way of thinking in the 21st century of Europe. If you want to cross borders, you have regulations how you can do it. And if you break these regulations, you break the law of the given country. And I'm really shocked, to be honest. I'm really shocked that if you say this in Europe, first, you're not going to be understood. Second, you're going to be criticized immediately. But I really cannot accept that just because there are many of the people who would like to go from point A to point B could cross borders freely. That should not be the case, I think. So first, we have to stop physically the irregular and illegal influx of the people. And there's a question how, right? This is a simple question, but a very complicated answer. Because the southern border of Schengen zone is now the external border of Greece. Currently, Greece cannot protect the southern Schengen border. And when I say this, I'm not criticizing Greece. I'm not bashing Greece, because we respect Greece. we respect the Greek people, we respect Greece as a country. I just want to say that no one should expect one single country to be able to resist such kind of a pressure under such complicated circumstances as Greece has. Greece has like 5, 6, or even more thousand kilometers of maritime border and having hundreds of islands. We Hungarians, we have to protect 500 kilometers of plain, and we have a fence, we have a regular legal framework, and we need thousands of personnel to be there to protect the border. So we can imagine what kind of a capacity we have to put together in order to be able to defend the southern border of Schengen zone, which is currently the southern border of Greece. But we have to make it, because it's complicated, but it's not impossible. It's complicated, but not impossible. So there, I think we should put together a European force, because we have to count how many troops we have, we need to have there, how many policemen we need, how many boats we need, how many ships we need, how many helicopters, Googles, whatever. It's a professional question. We are not border patrol expert. I'm not, you might be, but I'm not a border patrol expert. So I don't know how many of them they are needed, but I'm pretty sure that they are experts who can count. And we have to put it together, because if we don't do it, then there can be a scenario that the southern border of Schengen zone can be equal to the northern border of Greece. And once again, I'm not criticizing Greece, I'm not bashing Greece, we respect Greece. I just want to say that we know how complicated situation Greece is in there. Because we Hungarians need special and enormous efforts to protect our Schengen border. And it's much, much easier than the task of Greece currently. So stopping of physical influx, physically stop of influx. Second, we have to stop the invitation, the policy of invitation. Because statements of European politicians, and some really, if I was honest, would say stupid, but I'm politically correct, so I say less wise decisions of European institutions, encourage people to leave their homes and come to Europe. Because this decision about the quota, obligatory quota, is irrational, is against common sense, and is totally impossible to implement. It can serve only one goal, to be an invitation. Because just imagine, I don't think there's more than there were more than 10 migrants who left their home because they wanted to go to Bulgaria, Romania, or to Hungary. We can be sure, right? So if you make a decision about the obligatory quota that hundreds must be settled or relocated in Hungary, Bulgaria, Romania, Slovakia, Czech Republic, what is the guarantee that they will not leave Romania, Bulgaria, Hungary the next day for Germany? And what you gonna do to hinder them? Nothing, because it's free movement of people. You cannot put a signal on the Hungarian-Austrian border saying that it's a free access except for relocated Syrians. So, and when we come to the implementation of these very important decisions, we raise these answers, which might seem stupid, but when it comes to implementation, these are the practical questions. And no answer. No answer. It was said that relocation is only possible from hotspots. Where do we have the hotspots? Nowhere. So this whole quota thing is totally against common sense and irrational. That's why we filed a lawsuit at the European Court. Slovakia did so as well, because we think that when the European, the interior ministers accepted this decision, was totally against European regulations, because it took away a right of decision of the member states. Because this quota issue forces you to not to have the right to decide whom you're gonna let in your country. So we go against it, and I think we have to stop this policy of invitations. And third, what we have to do here is the tackling the root causes. And that's the most important, tackling the root causes. Because until we are able to manage the crisis in Syria, in Yemen, until we are able to run real development programs in sub-Saharan Africa, these people will come. So we have to find very, very quick solutions. In Syria, there must be an agreement between the transatlantic community and Russia. There must be an agreement. Because if there's no agreement, it's going to end up in uncoordinated actions, and it's going to end up in let's say, situations as we have experienced at the end of last year, which we don't want to experience in the future at all, right? Because we don't want the crisis to be deeper than it is now. So agreement between transatlantic community and Russia about the Syrian conflict, it's absolutely necessary. And we have to tackle those root causes. We have to end the crisis in Libya, because this is kind of a free way to for migrants. And if you're not able to tackle root causes, we're not going to have a long-term solution in this respect. Last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, how European Union can be stronger in the future? That should be the question. Your Prime Minister loves football. Mine loves as well. I personally do. So I think it's pretty obvious that out of 11 bad players, you will never have a good football team, right? So out of 28 weak member states, you will never have a strong European Union. It is obvious that strong European Union requires strong member states. And strong European Union can only be based on strong member states. And European Union needs to be enlarged very quickly. Of course, we learned about the statements of some European leaders saying that there's not going to be no enlargement there's not going to be any enlargement in the upcoming 5 years. I just would like to say that on behalf of Hungarian government, no one authorized European leaders to make such kind of statements. Because I think that the slower the enlargement process will take place in the future, the less hope we will have to be stronger. Because I think we are here on the Western Balkans, and here it's appropriate place to speak about this. That is not natural that if you look at the map, you have European Union, you have a white hole, and European Union again. This is not a normal situation. That's why it's not EU, NATO, but we worked a lot in order Montenegro to be invited to NATO, because that was the last country at the shore of Mediterranean not to be a member of NATO. That's the same thing with the EU enlargement. Here we have Serbia. Serbia made a lot, actually, in order to be a member of European Union. Now I understand that there are European leaders asking them for minority issues, right? We have a significant minority in Serbia. And I'm telling you, if every country with minorities had done so much in favor of the minorities as Serbia, we would live in a much more peaceful world. So I think that acceleration of the Serbian accession talks is vital. I think that that acceleration of the talks with Macedonia, Montenegro is vital. And I think, and this is my last point, we have to strengthen the Schengen area as well, because currently this is at stake for sure. Because the Schengen zone, the existence of Schengen zone is based on two consensus. Consensus number one, there's no border control inside. Consensus number two, those ones who are at the external border will protect the whole zone in order not to be obliged to have the internal controls. And if you break the second consensus, which is currently broken because we're not able to defend ourselves from outside, externally. So if you break the second consensus, the first consensus can be broken very easily as well. And that would be a disaster. Because I think Schengen zone and the free movement of people, goods and services, these are among the most important achievements what this whole European family has achieved. And if the Schengen zone dies and collapses, that will cause a lot of economic problems and losses and challenges to the countries who are already in the Schengen zone. So I think we have to strengthen Schengen zone, and the best way to strengthen Schengen zone is first complying with all the obligations, all of us complying with all the obligations, and the second is to accept Bulgaria as soon as possible, because I think that it is the crisis time when you can measure obviously if someone is ready for the next step or not. And Bulgaria passed this exam since Bulgaria was able to stop the influx, and I think that Bulgaria has made more than some Schengen zone countries in order to maintain the Schengen zone. This is my last word, and thank you very much for the opportunity, and thank you very much for your attendance and for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister. I think that you made very clear messages in different aspects of international relations, and I think that this is something that everybody was expecting from you, though this is not typical for foreign ministers. So thank you very much. I would like to underline a few of the topics that you mentioned. The dialogue with Russia is something that is encouraging. I heard only today that we're planning to reopen the NATO-Russia Council discussions, which is exactly in the line of what you were pleading about. Maybe you made also happy the Ukrainian ambassador who is here, the Greek ambassador who is here, the Serbian ambassador who is here, and all Bulgarians supporting us for Schengen. So thank you very much about this clear message. You mentioned several times the political correctness, and I was asking myself, is the wall between the United States and Mexico politically correct? So this is a very good question which deserves some brainstorming in such setting. You also mentioned something which is very important and which has to be underlined more and more, that migrant does not mean refugee. These are two separate categories of people, each of which requires its own treatment. And because you mentioned that you're Hungarian and you are not supposed to congratulate your country, okay, we shall be happy to congratulate you, especially as a small token of reciprocity after your so great support you're extending to Bulgaria. Having said that, I would like to open the floor for discussions and say that the first who are on my list are coming from the United States. This is Bloomberg Television. Is Bloomberg Television around? Заповядайте. След Bloomberg Television, the next television is also Bulgarian American television. This is BIT. And so, Bloomberg and BIT, you are the first.
Споменахте, т.е. обвинихте Европейския съюз в двойни стандарти, защото спря Южен поток, но лансира Северен поток. Въпросът ми е аналогичен. Дали Европа не се движи на две скорости вече във всички сфери? И вторият ми въпрос е, как виждате решението на проблема с Украйна?
Благодаря. BIT да заповяда. Те се отказаха. Жалко. Губят. Заповядайте, една ръка виждам отляво, млад човек, след което посланника на Палестина е сред нас. Микрофонът е по-близо до посланника на Палестина. Ива, в твое дясно, Ива, твое дясно. Доyen на дипломатическия корпус.
Your Excellency, thank you very much for your honestly speech. Really, it was very interesting speech, and rare that you hear some speech like this speech from politics. I can say that it's a speech of new generations. Excellency, you talk about the double standards, and you talk many about political correctness. What do you think about the occupation of the state of Palestine by Israel since 60 years and the settlements which building in the land of Palestine? Please tell me your opinion about this question. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. Заповядайте, младия човек, мое ляво до вратата.
Здравейте, агенция БГНС. Как ще се промени, господин министър, Брюксел при евентуално излизане на Великобритания от Съюза и провали ли се ЕС като наднационален проект?
Да не избързваме с Великобритания все пак. На 9 февруари ще направим една конференция с британското посолство по британските предложения за реформа. Тогава ще... Но да не слагаме каруцата пред коня, бих казал. Посланничката на Марокко, заповядайте. The microphone, please.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. I would like to use your words and to talk about hypocrisy and double standards. So, what do you think about this European Union, this Europe enlarged as you wish? Will we have less hypocrisy and less double standards within an enlarged Europe, knowing that, as far as I understood, you said that there is no common migration policy within EU because there are diversity within EU. There are the member states are in different situations in terms of demographic challenges, economic challenges, and so on. My second question is about the failure. What you said about the failure of the European Neighbourhood policy, especially the Eastern Partnership. So this is a failure according to your words. The Union for Mediterranean, which is the southern equivalent of Eastern Partnership, is considered also as a failure. So what would be, according to you, the new paradigm for a successful European Union neighbourhood policy?
And when can we expect Morocco in the European Union?
Maybe if other countries nears are in, we will be maybe in. No, who knows?
Latif, I told you the shortcut for the European is first to join NATO.
It depends. No, excuse me. It depends on the European Union absorption capacity.
Една млада дама под камерата, ако не се лъжа, с бял ръкав.
Европейски съвет за външна политика. Господин министър, можете ли да ми кажете какво е унгарското разбиране за солидарност? Тъй като говорихте много за затваряне на граници и се питам какъв е момента на солидарност в това да затвориш границата си към друга държава на Европейския съюз и какво е солидарното в този момент в справяне с европейската криза с бежанците? Мерси.
Благодаря. Една ръка до преводаческата кабина виждам, даже две са там. Много ви благодаря, че задавате много кратки въпроси. Това е много ценно.
Добър ден на всички. Ваше превъзходителство. Благодарим за изчерпателната информация. Димитър Канарев се казва, Национална асоциация Българско Черноморие. Вие изразихте вашата категорична подкрепа за приемането на България в Шенген. Въпросът ми към вас е дали бихте могли да ангажирате също толкова силна подкрепа от страните на Вишеградската четворка за приемане на България и Румъния веднага в шенгенското пространство. Благодаря ви.
Благодаря ви. His Excellency, the Ambassador of Greece. Ива. Благодаря. Явно повече микрофони трябва да ползваме.
Well, thank you very much.
Your Excellency, please.
I thought you couldn't see my hand, but thank you very much for giving me the floor. Well, it is not a surprise, Minister, to say that, of course, most of your intervention was really not worthy, but of course, the reference to Greece, you expect that I have certain feelings, despite your comment that you're not really criticizing Greece. But of course, I hold your with all due respect of these remarks of yours with regards to hypocrisy and double standards. I think, allow me to say that the singling out a member state, it is not really very encouraging. And then allow me to say that unless I omitted some of your remarks, but I didn't hear any reference to solidarity or to burden sharing, which is actually one of the main principles of the European Union with regards to to tackling or coping with this immigration issue. I'm sure that you know much better than myself, Minister, but you do know very well that Greece has requested the aid of Frontex, but although we have submitted the request of 1,800 personnel to be coming to aid, to our assistance to reinforce the external borders of the European Union, until now, and according to my information, it's only 800. With regards to relocation, I hope I'm not boring the audience. Only, as you do know, only 13 countries out of 28 have pledged support or respect of the European Union decisions. So, and all these 13 countries out of the 28 have pledged less than 600 refugees or immigrants to be relocated. Until now, despite all efforts, 82 have been relocated to 4 of our partners. So allow me again, I'm sure that you know all these details through your colleague, the Greek colleague, and all the 4, that in you mentioned that, of course, we have these extensive sea borders, and that we, since the beginning of 2015, if I'm not mistaken, about 90,000 people were rescued in about 2,500 incidents at the sea, most of them rescue and save operations. And of course, despite these efforts, there were, of course, unfortunate victims into the sea coming from our eastern neighbor, Turkey, where you do know that the agreement of readmission, the European one, and also the bilateral one that we have, is roughly working. Allow me also to say, although I should not really mention countries, but I have to say it because it's also instructions that I have. We are trying to return people back. And you do know it's not Syrians. Greece had great influx of economic immigrants. You said it yourself, Minister, long ago, before the crisis touched Hungary. So when recently Greece is trying to send back Pakistanis, and I apologize for using this nationality, but it was Pakistanis, lots of them. And we sent them back with travel documents, real travel documents issued by the Pakistani authorities. So they boarded the plane, they went to Islamabad, and I think, I don't know, there were probably less than 50. They accepted only 1, and the rest were sent back to Greece. So I hope that you share, Minister, and I stop with this, that solidarity and burden sharing will be really prevailing despite all the difficult situations that most of our countries face at different intensity. Thank you very much for the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. In addition to what you say, I would add that solidarity with Greece means solidarity with Macedonia, solidarity with Albania, solidarity with Bulgaria. So helping you, we help all of us. So I very much agree with what you say about the need, the necessity to support you. As the minister said, the huge border which Greece has, maritime and land border, to be supported by a common effort, common European effort. Mr. Minister, I think that you have questions enough, many for 2 more lectures, but let's try to fit into the time.
Well, thank you very much for your remarks and questions. I will do my best in order to try to answer all of them, although we were warned by our host not to, the cart should not overtake the horse. But regarding United Kingdom, I just would like to respond to the gentleman that I think that it is the interest of European Union and the interest of all European Union member states United Kingdom to stay as a member of the European Union. Although we agree a lot in a lot of issues, we agree with the United Kingdom when it comes to the reform agenda of the UK. When they say Europe must be much more competitive and has to make measures in order to do so, we agree. We have to be more competitive. We have to look for ways how we can convert our economies into more effective one. When the Brits speak about more sovereignty and the national parliaments should have a bigger role, we agree. Subsidiarity, sovereignty, bigger role of bigger role of national parliaments, we totally agree with that. When it comes to the immigration, what they call, and when we speak about migration, we speak about people coming from outside of the European Union. When they speak about immigration, actually, they usually speak about, the free flow of people from European Union going to UK to be employed. There we say that, of course, we support and we admit that that United Kingdom would like to end up with the practice that their social system is being misused in certain ways. But what we would not support for sure is the discriminative solutions. So, but just to put a period at the end of the sentence, I think it is our true interest, UK, to stay within European Union. And now, when it comes to the issue of solidarity, I'm just wondering whether I forget to speak about these things or you don't want to hear that by will. Because, Ambassador, when it comes to sharing the burden, I'm pretty sure that you remember that at least 2 or 3 minutes from my introduction when I was speaking about that we have to put together a European Union force to protect the southern border of Greece. I mean, after this, I don't really understand why you ask me about burden sharing. Because this is burden sharing. We have to share the burden of Greece. Greece bears enormous burden on her shoulders because you have to defend, you have to protect multiple thousands of kilometers of maritime border and hundreds of islands, which I totally acknowledge and recognize. It's absolutely complicated, and you should not be left alone. That's why it has been months ago, or even half a year, or even more than that, when we started to propose to European Union to put together a joint European Union force, because not a single member state can meet such kind of a challenge on her own. And you know what, Ambassador, in this respect, we would totally not only support an obligatory quota. There we would support an obligatory quota, because there it would make sense. When it would be said, okay, Greece needs such kind of an assistance in order to be able to protect the southern border. A huge assistance, because we need to put together a huge European Union force, and there should be an obligatory quota. All 28 or 27 of ours should contribute, because that would make sense. And you know, Ambassador, it doesn't make sense to speak about 1,500 Frontex officers, because Frontex officials or Frontex officers will not protect your border. They will register who will enter, but the thing we need is to protect the border and not to register. I mean, registration is an obligation of Dublin. Of course, we have to register everyone, but what we have to do first is to protect the border. And you cannot protect the border with Frontex officers. You can protect the border with policemen, with border guards, and with troops. And that should be put together. So when it comes to solidarity, to the question of the lady there, how we perform solidarity? Do you know what kind of assistance we received from European Union to protect our own border? None. 0. 0.0. We have received assistance from 3 countries. From Poland, from Czech Republic, and from Slovakia. Respect to them. They have sent policemen to our border to be able to protect our border. And how we perform solidarity? That both Austria and Germany can be sure that there's no pressure going to their territory through Hungary anymore. That's how we are in solidarity with Germany and Austria. Through our territory, there is no pressure, neither to Austria nor to Germany. And how we are in solidarity with Slovenia. We are the country that sends the most policemen to Slovenia to help them to protect their own border. And we are the country sending one of the biggest squad of policemen to Macedonia to be able to protect their border. That is solidarity. You think it's solidarity that you break European regulations by will? Because there are countries breaking European regulations by will, by not controlling their own borders, by letting the free flow of migrants without knowing who they are and why they enter and what's their target. That's the lack of solidarity. We have to be in solidarity with each other with sticking to common regulations. And if there are common regulations, we have to stick to them, unless we say together that from now on, these regulations doesn't count. But we have never said such kind of a thing. And when we asked European institutions whether we have to comply with the Schengen regulations or not anymore, the answer was yes, you do have to. And when we comply, then we are under critics. So that's what I speak about double standards. So you can be sure, all European Union member states can be sure that through the territory of Hungary, there is no pressure. And if any country who is under pressure requires assistance from us to protect their borders, we will always be there. Now regarding the relocation of 82 ambassadors, you're right, 82. That's another proof what I said. Irrational and unimplementable decision. Why do we fool ourselves? Why do we make a joke of ourselves by saying that this quota system would work? That would never work. And you said it's right. 82 relocations so far. You know, it's unimplementable and it's not gonna work out. And when it comes to readmission, you're totally right. I admit, European Union should be much more committed in this respect. And force those countries who don't want to readmit their citizens to readmit. And how? European Union spends billions of euros of development assistance in those countries. I'm not naming any of them, not even that you have named. European Union spends billions of euros on development assistance from the money of the taxpayers of Europe, by the way. Okay, if they don't comply with regulations, for example, they don't stick themselves to readmission agreements, why don't we say that, okay, if you don't comply with the regulations, we don't comply with our obligations either? Now, but the Schengen, accepting Bulgaria into Schengen zone and the Visegrad countries, I promise to the gentleman that I will do my best in order to encourage my colleagues in Visegrad countries to accept you as the next member of Schengen zone. I'm pretty sure that they would be open to that. In a different level of enthusiasm, let's put it this way. I have this observation that usually Hungary is always among the most enthusiastic countries when it comes to enlargement of any kind of part of European cooperation and integration. But we very well remember those times when we were candidates. And I'm really sorry that there are now countries who are professional candidates to European Union but had not forward progress in the last year, so we are totally in solidarity with them. So I can promise to you that we will always be strong promoters of your Schengen membership, and that position of ours will be represented in V4 meetings as well. There was a question about the common policy regarding migration. Yeah, we don't have it so far, unfortunately. But the reason why we don't have it is the following: that I think we don't have a common understanding about the fundamentals. Because until a part of the continent speaks about refugee crisis and the other part of the continent speaks about migration crisis, the approaches are so totally different that there is no hope for a common migratory policy. And you know, my observation is that everyone, really everyone who speaks about this topic speaks about necessity of protecting the external borders, but nothing happens after these statements, as nothing happened before the statements either. The partnership with the Mediterranean, in the Mediterranean area, I think it's very, very important. Last time we met in this circle was in Barcelona last April, as far as I remember. You know, I'm a strong advocate of this cooperation, a strong advocate cooperation between European Union and the northern belt of Africa, because that's another guarantee of getting back the lost competitiveness of European Union if we can work together with you very closely. And I do hope that there's going to be an openness, and I really do hope that those crises which hit your region will be settled as soon as possible. Regarding the double standards, the journalist from Bloomberg, if I remember correctly, asked me about that. No, I don't want to be more critical than I should. So I wouldn't say that double standards are applied in every issues in European Union, but I have to tell you that we met double standards quite a lot of times when I speak about Hungary. Just to give you an example, you remember we took office in 2010. There were very strong attacks against Hungary, especially against our new law on media. There are journalists in the room, they must be sensitive to this issue. We had a huge attack, even by the time that the law was not translated into any other language than Hungarian. But after it was translated and it became obvious that there was no part in the law which would not be composed in some other EU member states law on media, it didn't count, regardless that those regulations were incorporated in other EU regulations. The attacks continued. And yes, when it comes to the issue of Northern Stream and South Stream, the reference points European institutions used to force South Stream to be postponed can be found when it comes to the issue of Northern Stream. That bypasses Ukraine as well. Not quite sure whether it's economically feasible or not. So there are the same points, same points of reference than with South Stream. That's why we teamed up with some Central European countries to send a letter to the European Commission asking them to apply level playing fields, or to ensure level playing fields in this respect. When it comes to Ukraine, I told you the solution is the full implementation of Minsk agreement by all sides. And when it comes to the Israel-Palestine issue, I would like to tell you that we are a strong supporter of the two-state solution. And generally, I want to tell you that all countries in the globe must respect the international law and the international contracts. And, you know, as being honest, I know why you raised the question. Not generally, but concretely as well. On Monday, we had a debate in the Foreign Affairs Council about a resolution or conclusions on Israel. And, you know, we were among those ones who said that such kind of conclusions must be balanced. And we received critics, I mean Hungary, because of announcing that we will not apply the labeling rule. You know, it's nothing against Palestine. I just don't agree with labeling from a trade point of view, from a pragmatism point of view, and from effectiveness point of view. So we will always support those measures which will help to settle the conflict, and not those ones which could deepen the conflict. And you can be sure that there will be a goodwill from Hungary, on behalf of European Union. When it comes to the Middle East peace process, they would like to play an important role, and we are committed to the two-state solution. I think I covered. Okay, thank you very much.
Тъкмо посланника ми каза, че сме на път да изтървем самолета, и от името на Дипломатическия институт, банка ДСК Контракт, с всичките ми благодарности към унгарско посолство, българско посолство в Унгария, да изпратим нашия гост с подобаващите аплодисменти.